Hello my dear students. So today we will be discussing next 3 NCERT question answer of the chapter Reproduction in Plants. Okay. So here you see question number 3. In my last class I had discussed about question number 1 and 2. So now question number 3. Explain what did you understand by sexual reproduction. Okay. So sexual reproduction, it is a mode of reproduction where the male and female gametes fuse together to form zygote. So over here actually the reproductive cells are involved. That is reproductive cells, in other term it is known as what? It is known as gamete. Okay. So there are two types of gamete. One is a male gamete and another one is a female gamete. Okay. Now male gamete, where it is present in the male reproductive organ, that is what? That is stamen. Okay. In which part of the stamen? In the anther of a stamen, it produces and it stores the pollen grain. Okay. And the female gamete, where it is located? It is located in the pistil, that is the female reproductive organ. All right. So what happens during pollination? Okay, pollination, it is done by what? It is done by several agents such as what? Such as you can say insects, okay, then wind, then water. Okay, so what do they do? Suppose if I say about insect, bees or butterflies, suppose if they sits on a flower for sucking nectar. Nectar is actually their food. It is a sugary fluid which is present inside the flower. So for sucking the nectar, okay, when they sit onto the flower, okay, so what happens at that time? The pollen grain, okay, it stick to their legs. All right. Then again when they are flying and sitting onto the another flower, the pollen grain, it is falling onto the stigma. Right. Now the stigma, it receives what? It receives a pollen grain, and what happens? Then a pollen tube is formed, right? And then the pollen tube, it moves through the style, that is the next part of the stigma, and it opens at what? It opens at ovary. Okay. So inside the ovary, what happens? The pollen, it penetrates, and then the pollen tube, it bursts, right? So next what happens? That male gamete, okay, it fuses with what? With the ovule, okay, which is present inside the ovary, and thus what happens? The fertilization take place. Okay. So after fertilization, what does it form? It forms zygote. Okay, zygote, it is a single cell. The life begins with a zygote. Then through the several cell division process, then this zygote, it forms into seed. Okay, and these seeds then ultimately grows into a new plant, right? So ovules, they are generally transformed into seeds, and since ovules, they are present inside the ovary they are transformed into fruit. This is all about in details of sexual reproduction. Okay. So next is state the main differences between sexual and asexual reproduction. Now asexual reproduction, what is the first difference? The first difference, in case of asexual reproduction, a single parent is involved. Okay, that is no male and female gametes or no male and female reproductive organ is involved. Okay, in case of sexual reproduction, two parents are involved. Next, in case of asexual reproduction, the plants can give rise to new plants without seeds. That means they are produced from asexual reproductive bodies, that is spores. Not all the time spores, sometimes what happens, by the direct method of reproduction also they can produce. For example, like in case of vegetative propagation, in case of vegetative propagation, the plants, they are produced from what? From the vegetative part of the plant, that is from a root, stem or leaf, isn't it? Okay. And in case of like you can say bread mold, common bread mold or rhizopus fungi, in that case the plants, they are produced from the asexual reproductive bodies, that is spores. Okay. In case of algae, that is Pyrogyra or cyanobacteria, the algae, they are produced by the process of fragmentation. That means they are plant part, okay, or the plant body, what happens? They break into two or more fragment, okay, and that rises to form a new algae plant. Okay. And budding, that is a process of reproduction in case of yeast. Okay, yeast is a unicellular fungi. Okay, then what happens? It produces a bulb like projection, and then it detaches from the parent cell, and thus it produces a new daughter cell, right? And in case of sexual reproduction, it involves the fusion of male and female gamete. Okay, so one more difference I can tell you, that is asexual reproduction, comparatively it is a faster process, whereas sexual reproduction, it is comparatively a slower process. Slower process means over here you see the formation of the reproductive organs are involved, then process of pollination is there, then process of fertilization is there, then formation of zygote, then formation of seed, and finally what happens, germination. Okay, so many steps are involved in case of sexual reproduction, but in case of asexual reproduction, it is actually, it is a direct method of reproduction. Okay. Yeah. Question number 5. Sketch the reproductive parts of a flower. Here you can see two diagrams I had given. One is the male figure number 13 over here. Actually I have taken this picture from your book, that is your reference book. So this is what, this is a stamen. Stamen, it is a male reproductive organ of a plant. Here you can see it consists of two parts, that is anther and filament. Okay, and it constitutes stamen. Okay, and here in the left hand side, here you can see it is what, it is pistil. Pistil, it is a female reproductive organ. Okay, it consists of three parts, that is stigma, style and ovary. Stigma, it is the topmost layer of the pistil. Okay, it receives the pollen grain. Style is actually a connecting tube that connects stigma to the ovary. Ovary, that is what, that is the swollen part which is located beyond what, which is located beyond the style, and inside this ovary, the female gamete, the ovules are present. Okay, number of ovules are present where actually the fertilization take place, right? So today up to this, next day we will be discussing more question. Thank you everyone.